Hello, my name is Craig Rainey, and I've been in the construction industry for more than 40 years. When homeowners tell me the story of their project, oftentimes it sounds like this. It doesn't have to be that way.
Oh, wise guy, eh?
And most builders would say that. Welcome to Remodeling Wisdom. I'm Craig Rainey. Let's get started.
And I've had a lot of comments and questions lately about the economy and whether this is the time to remodel or rebuild, or if you should hang on to your money. Should you, where should you go with this? And a lot of folks ask me from a point of politics, which this is not a political podcast. But I guess who's in the White House and who's running the country does make a difference. But I think overall, despite how polarized we are politically as a nation, I think that the economy and the decisions we make at our local level isn't immediately and so heavily felt as we're led to believe in the media and everything else. So as a builder and as somebody who considers the construction industry his field of endeavor and has a certain amount of knowledge and expertise in it, I believe that we have to make decisions based on more localized information. So today what we're going to talk about is this the time for you to invest money in your home? Is this the time to remodel? Is this the time to build? Is this the time to move? Is this the time to put your house on the market and do something? These questions, I'm getting a lot of those right now, and we're going to address those, and I'll use as much information as I've got. I'm also a homeowner. I've done remodel work on my own home, and I'm looking at doing more. And so interest rates concern me. The supply chain, all these kind of things, they're all going to come into view in this thing. So we're going to answer those questions today. And so I encourage you to stick around and hear what my view is and my opinion is on it. I'll try to give you as much backing data as I can. But before we get started, I would like to encourage y'all. First, I'd like to thank you for being a part of the program, but I'd like to encourage y'all to hit the like button. Also, you can feel free to go ahead and follow us, and that way you know if there are new podcasts coming up or that kind of thing. And last, if you need to get hold of me, my email is craig@craigrainey.com. I do enjoy the comments that come in. I answer all those emails myself. If you need more information, I do have a remodeling magazine online. It's a blog site, and it is texasbuilderblog.com or craigsbuilderblog.com. Either one will get you there. And it's Remodeling Wisdom, advice from the expert. You just look that up, you'll find it. But there's more information, whereas this is the spoken word, that's the written word. But again, there are chances for y'all to make suggestions or comments on that too. But anyway, back to the topic at hand. So I was speaking to, I was doing a trade show recently, and this was in Austin, and I was at the convention center. And then at that trade show, I was talking to a couple that were looking at doing a pretty extensive renovation on their home. And here in the Austin market, we're kind of an enigma compared to a lot of the rest of the country because there are a lot of people moving here. There are a lot of people who are, coming in from California, New York. If you watch the news, you know what's happening. There's a huge migration going on. And so here in Austin, we're a little more insulated from economic upheaval than a lot of the other parts of the country. And the reason I say that, and for those of you who are in Austin that are listening to this episode, with the amount of money that's coming in, and I say money because the people in California, I'll give you an example. In Austin, which is one of the more expensive places to buy and own a home in the state of Texas, your typical 2,000 square foot house is going for about $350,000. That is, if you take the city as a whole, that is about the mean. It goes up 350, 360, somewhere in that neighborhood, but that's about where we are. We went all the way up to around 4 before, but the economy's softening a little bit, and people are, they're adjusting their pricing. And it used to be that if you put a house on the market here in Austin, it would sell between $25,000 and $100,000 above what you're asking, just so you could get it, because there's so little housing for the demand, so little supply. But now it's kind of softened up where you're getting appraised plus a point or two, but you're not getting much more than that. But the thing is, in the rest of the country right now, it's a buyer's market. Everything is dropping in price. People are, there are fire sales going on in certain parts of the country with real estate that they were not seeing here in Austin. Of course, on the other side, there's also interest rates. The Fed, my last count, I think they've raised interest rates 4 times since I believe it was November of last year. And that's unprecedented, considering that the Fed hadn't raised interest rates in almost 15 years prior to that. So whereas if you're like me, I got my mortgage, it was around 3% and change. And now the mortgage rates are around 6.25%, 6.5%. So there's quite a difference, and that's a big increase in a short amount of time. So that's got a lot of the folks that are looking at investing and buying homes on the run right now, and everybody's just sitting tight and saying, well, what do we do? And putting off those things. Supply chain. I can tell you that a lot of what we're hearing on the news about supply chain, it's a bit erroneous, because I'll just say this from me. I'm in the business right now. In fact, I've got a project that we're pouring concrete next week, and I've got a framed cornice package being dropped the following week after that. I made the call on the lumber yesterday, paid for it today. It's going to be ready to go, and I've got some special order 107 siding that's going with it, because it's a legacy house out there, in one of the older neighborhoods. So, I'm not having trouble getting hold of anything. Now, my window provider is still 14 weeks out, which it used to be they were only 5 or 6 weeks out. So, that's not supply chain. That is consumerism, and this is my opinion. And there are a lot of I'm not an economist. I'm the first to say that, but I remember in '87. And most of y'all weren't even around then, but I was in the construction business in 1987, running my little construction company. And I remember everything came to a screeching halt, 87, 88. And that was, the big recession at that time. And it went all the way through 89, and it was horrible. But at that time, buying stopped. Consumerism was not happening. The stock market dropped. It crashed. There were people jumping out of windows on Wall Street. It was that bad. And, so that was a recession. And although there are different definitions of recession, I feel we're in one. But it is an enigma, as is Austin, in that consumerism hasn't slowed a bit. Here in Austin, you can't hardly get into a restaurant on a Friday night. You go out there, you're not going to be able to get in. You got to get reservations, because people are still buying. Not just grocery stores, but retail stores. Things are flying off the shelves. So there's, and of course Amazon. I'm like everybody else. It's Christmas every day for me. I order from Amazon regularly, and their sales haven't slowed. So it's a bit odd that we can talk about a recession and inflation and a bad economy and all the other buzzwords that are going around when you see people spending money like water. And unlike the 80s, where they said, well, there's so much credit, everyone's putting on credit cards. That may be true, but that's not happening now. Now, there is some of that, but the majority of it is people are making money. But going back to how does that tie into the remodeling and construction business? Well, it ties into it exactly, because I'm seeing a fall off on some of my larger projects. They're telling me, Craig, we're going to wait. We're going to wait this out. And a lot of these folks, I've got a lot of cash buyers. There aren't a whole lot of the people that do business with my company that are going out and getting loans. There are a few of those, but primarily these folks are funded, and so they're in the stock market. Whether it's 401ks or they've got portfolios through mutual fund investment stocks, whatever it may be. So they're funded, and so they're liquid to a great extent. So they're looking at it through the prism of, that money's dear to me. It was hard for me to get, and I've got that socked away. And as bad as the economy is, I can protect that. Whereas if I go and I put $100,000 in my home, am I going to get that back? Well, that's what we have to discuss today. Is this the time? I think that a lot of times in the remodeling business, and the reason I'm going to talk remodeling primarily now is because I think new home sales are slumping. I know in Austin they're starting to rent out some of these new speculative homes that are being built by these larger tract home builders. They're because of interest rates primarily, I believe, but also because of fear. They're not moving the units they were 6 months ago, a year ago. They're concerned. Things are slowing. So what they're doing is they're renting these places out. And so those who are owning their home, they're not putting them on the market. They're saying, well, we've got, it looks like bad times coming up. Anywhere from, I heard the other day that 2023 is just going to be really rugged on the economy and on the American people. So, save your money. You better get the mason jars out and start canning fruit and vegetables because it's going to be a hard road. And I've heard other people say it's going to go as long as 5 years from now, that we're in a permanent trend or semi-permanent trend. It'll come out. Again, I'm not an economist. Back in 87, it lasted into the early 90s before we actually recovered to where it was a robust economy and and things started working. But I think we're on the cusp of some change. There's no doubt. We can already see it. But as far as remodeling, what are the factors that I think, and I'm here with you, what do I look at to see if this is a good time for me to remodel my home? And what am I advising my clients? And what would I advise you? Well, I know this, that based on what I'm seeing, I don't think it's going to get much better than it is today for a while. So if you're looking at remodeling to sell, I would say I would recommend that you go with more aesthetic things, repaint. I'm not a big fan of refacing cabinets, and I don't want to get too much in the weeds and get really specific, but I run into people all the time that say, look, we're thinking about just refacing our cabinets because it's cheaper, or you're not going to repaint them. Well, if you've got stained cabinets, it's tougher to paint those, and they're a process. I'm not going to go into it that you do to do that, but I find that cabinets, especially box cabinets, and almost everything you're going to buy now is all wood, soft close drawers, full extension hardware on your drawers, and this kind of thing. You can find a good cabinet for $300 a box, and it's a lot cheaper to do that than to take these fronts off and have somebody come retrofit those and match paint and everything else. So I would recommend, if you're going to sell, just, find some good, inexpensive materials and just give it a facelift. As far as open concept and a lot of things that we're doing now, you get an interior designer involved or a structural designer, and they say, well, we're going to open concept this. We're going to tear this bearing wall out. We're going to do this and do that. And we're going to, update all of our fixtures. And we're going to, flooring is always going to be your most expensive single investment in a home. You can, here in Austin, your cost, if you're going to go DIY this thing, is you're going to look at about $3 a foot for flooring, and you can apply that to the per yard on carpet. And then, a couple bucks to demo if you've got tile or you've got flooring that's got to be pulled out and taken out. A couple bucks for a foot for that. Then another probably $3 for labor to get that done. So if you're doing it yourself, you can always figure about $10 a foot minimum. And so you got a 2,000 square foot house. Well, that's $20,000. So, that's a big investment, and that's something that flooring is important. And especially if they're pets, this kind of thing, so that's something to look at. But I would say this: if you're looking to sell, I don't think that right now is the right time to remodel. However, if you're like me and you love your home and you plan to be here for a while, this is the perfect time to do it. And the reason I say it is this: because since COVID, when a sheet of OSB was almost $50, it was up to $48 a sheet for a 4x8 sheet of OSB. It's down in the 20s now, which in the real world, back in the old days, 3 years ago, it was $8.65 a sheet. So, you're in the upper teens, lower 20s now, so it's about as good as it's going to get. Supply chain, I don't believe there's a supply chain problem. I think it's a consumerism problem. Everybody's spending money like water, and it's hard to get things because the manufacturing is way down the line. And when manufacturers are manufacturing, for instance, a sheet of OSB, they're not going to manufacture 50% more thinking that, it's, the consumerism is going to hold. They're thinking that something bad's going to happen, which is going on right now. And they're going to say, well, we're going to end up with all this surplus material and surplus surplus merchandise, we won't be able to do anything with it, and we'll have to either discount it, which means we lose money on it. It's much better to only make what we need because the economy is so good. And when you're selling sheets for the amount of money they're selling them for, your profit margins are increasing. And I mean, the cost of manufacturing a sheet of OSB, and I'll explain why I do that, but the cost of manufacturing a sheet of OSB has not gone up 20 times. It has not gone up, 8 times. It has not done that. As a double, probably, just because they also, the manufacturer also goes through their cost variations. But the reason I talk about OSB, and let me explain this, OSB, oriented strand board. What that is if you ever walk into Home Depot, and this is the best way to find out whether lumber costs are up or down or where they are. You walk into Home Depot and you go on the lumber, and there's always this pile of, looks like plywood, 4x8 sheets. It's either green or red on the edges. It'll say OSB 7/16, and it'll give you the price. Well, in regular times, that OSB is going to be around $8-9 a sheet. That's where it normally is. As I mentioned, during COVID, it went up to almost 50. I think I saw 48, and I heard 54, but not here. I saw $48 a sheet, and then I got down to 35, and I've seen it. If you buy enough of it now, you can get down in the teens again. But whatever OSB is, when OSB is $30 a sheet, that means that your 2x4 92 5/8 pre-cut stud is going to be around $4 instead of $1.96 like it used to be, or $2.40. And everything's going to be adjusted based upon that. It's a really good barometer for that, and that's what I recommend if you ever want to know if you're a builder, if you want to know if your bid from 30 days ago is still good, just take a look at what you bid OSB 30 days ago at what it was and what it is now. So that's as a guy that's been in the business for a long time, and I can pretty much bid a job within a couple $1,000s from the street. So that's my recommendation. I do apologize. I got a little bit of hay fever. We got that north wind blowing in, and everything that's been laying dormant up in the Great Plains in the Midwest is now blowing down here to South Texas, and and I'm enjoying it now. So anyway, I do apologize if you hear me sniffle and snort. But but if you're going to remodel to live in, the reason I say this is a good time is because I think lumber prices are going to rise again, and I think it's going to happen sooner than later. So I would recommend that, and this is, of course, taking into consideration why you're remodeling. Right now, the trend for me that I'm doing is people are spending a lot more time at home. And I think COVID really, really brought that on, where people they still go out, but there's a whole lot more of the 1950s homebody, the home and hearth thing. And I think that people are gravitating, including working from home. And I know Tesla and some of these other companies are saying, no, everybody come back, but that's not the trend. These businesses have found that buildings and bricks on the ground are expensive to build, to rent, to maintain, to pay taxes and insurance on. And so what they're saying is, okay, well, I'm enjoying not having that bit of overhead to take care of, and put electricity and phones in that. And people are working from home, and we're able to remunerate them, and they're finding that people are actually, they're responsible. Overall, people that work from home are responsible, and companies are thriving under this business model. So I'm building a lot of home offices. And at first I started off where I was converting bedrooms, and whether it was we're putting Cat 5 or extra electrical, or bookshelves in, or making the space a little bigger, so that, because a desk, chair, bookshelves, file cabinets, printer, these things take up space. And sometimes your typical 11 by 12 bedroom isn't big enough to do that. So we have to take a little closet, this kind of thing. So I'm seeing that. But nowadays, the common areas in the house, when I remodel, the common areas are becoming dining room, living room, kitchen, home office. I'm seeing a lot of this. And because these people have been doing, especially when you have a smaller house, you get 1,700 square feet. Well, you find that your office is in the living room, and if you got the TV on, it creates a problem. So I'm doing a lot of that. So if your remodel is because you need that sanctuary, you need some place to run your life, I would recommend you do it now, because if you try to do it later, everything from interest rates, if you're going to get your funding through a financial institution, or material, I think, is going to go up again. builders are plentiful, but they're backed up. This is a good time to do it, in my opinion. If you're self-funded, then it's nearly no brainer. But that's what I would recommend. Building a new home. That's a tough question, and the reason I say that is because if you're looking at doing the entire package, property, home, all this kind of stuff, and you're going through a big builder that does that sort of thing, you can do that, but their new business model, and I'm hearing a lot of this. I talked to a lot of people that are telling me that what these builders are doing is they're saying, okay, well, this is the basis point for the house. In other words, we're going to build this for $200,000, and that's a ridiculous sum in most cases. $200,000 house, but we have built in there an addendum that says that if lumber goes up this much, you'll cover the cost plus. And so they'll give you a cost plus deal on a change order that's built in. They'll also say that, labor could go up, or if it takes longer, or this or that. So I'm not a fan of open-ended contracts. In fact, my clients who I consult and the people that I talk to never, ever have an open-ended contract and always have a full set of design drawings, because a set of blueprints will have more weight to it than a proposal or a contract that has the word count of War and Peace. So you got to do that, but you need to protect yourself. But I'm finding that a lot of these houses that are already built, and I don't go to the older neighborhoods. The older neighborhoods, it's like buying antiques. You're going to buy a lamp for $800 where you can buy a lamp anywhere else for $40 or $50. Well, if you go to the older neighborhoods where these clapboard siding houses are and everything, there's an innate value that's going to be there. Houses that's been around since the 20s, 30s, or 40s, they're going to retain that value because there's always going to be that draw, that charm. And HGTV, they really keep that going, and that hasn't died. But you take a house that was built in the 70s, 80s, or 90s. Okay, those are typically a trap. Listen to me, a tract home. They can be a trap. Depends on if you try to do it yourself. You know what you're doing, but it's typically a tract home or a production build. And these folks, they're owning it. And they're thinking, okay, well, there's a bunch of them out here, and we just want to get rid of this. So you can get a good deal right now on that. And most of those houses are pretty easily remodeled, especially a single story. So there are different ways to look at it, and if you've got a specific question about that and you feel like that I can answer it for you, send me a comment, send me a suggestion. I can look at it and let you know what I think. And don't just take my word for it, but I can be one other opinion. I'll be that second or third opinion that you need. But so that's the way to go. But remodeling, if you're remodeling to occupy the home during hard times, this is going to be your place that you're going to conduct your life, and the family's going to gather around. We're going to watch TV here. We're going to work here. We're going to play here. We're going to spend most of our time here to save money and try to keep our expenses down. I'd recommend that you do it now. If you wait till later, it might be too expensive. I think that as the economy starts to restrict a little and starts to suffer, you're going to find that a lot of these builders are going to go out of business. It happened. I've seen it. This is the third time I've seen it in my lifetime, and invariably, it's a war of attrition. And the way that it works is this: everybody's working, everybody's charging maximum dollars. They're charging Ferrari money for Chevy products, and they're getting it because the market is so great and the demand is so great. But what's going to happen is, as the demand falls off, the charlatans and the opportunists are going to fall to the side, because nobody's going to pay what they're asking for it, and a lot of those folks are going to go do something else. And I think that'd be great for the industry. But you're going to get down to where you just have a few, just a few of those core builders that you can trust, and they're going to be covered up. These are people that they're trustworthy. They have good reviews. The referrals are there, and those folks it's going to be tough. And so they may or may not raise their prices. A lot of times they don't. Your good, honest builder typically is not an opportunist. They say, okay, well, if the lumber prices go up, labor goes up, I got to charge you more, but I'm not, just because you're in need and I'm here and I'm the only guy in town. I'm not going to tear your head off with the price. They're just not going to do that. So, as you go on, yes, prices are going to go up, but also the ability to find a builder is going to go down. You're going to have trouble doing that. So like I said, right now you got a bunch of folks that are in the industry that can do this work for you. And again, review some of my other podcasts. You got to protect yourself, because when the economy goes down and the economy drops, these folks in the construction industry are not captains of industry. A lot of them are paycheck to paycheck. And if they're having trouble getting jobs and they get yours, you may find that they're paying their bills or paying for another job before they get to your job. And you need to protect yourself against that. You need to make sure that that is not going to happen to you, because this is such a dangerous industry when it comes to that. And during hard economic times is when, it really comes through. People who are, the customers don't have they got money, but they're really protective of it. And then you got these builders who aren't making as much money as they were making, and they were spending it like .coms back in the day. And so their money flow stops, and they're looking for a profit center to keep their habits going. You got to protect yourself from that, and there are ways to do it. Listen to my other podcasts. I can give you some ideas how to select your remodeler and your builder, the things to look for, the questions to ask, and what you need to know. It's important. I see it all the time, and you hear about it yourself. I mean, that's the reason we as consumers in this industry spend so much time and effort to protect ourselves. We don't go through any of this when we go to the grocery store, or we go to buy a car or insurance. We don't go through all that. It's pretty cursory, but when we're going out to have our home remodeled or to build a home, and we're talking to some builder and some joker that's in a beat up truck and jeans and work boots, and we're about to hand him tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of dollars, and you're saying, well, this guy's making so much money. Why is he buying a $4,000? Why is he driving a $4,000 pickup truck? These are questions that you have to ask yourself. But like I said, I've got a full series on what to protect yourself, how to protect yourself, and what to look for when you're hiring a builder. But anyway, back to it. You need to get going on that if that's something you're going to do. That's my opinion. That's the long and short of it. Because if you don't do it now, it's going to be a while before you're going to be able to do it again. And if you're in a home that doesn't suit you, and whenever I talk to my clients, the first thing I ask them is I ask them questions about how they occupy the space. How do you occupy the space? Where do you take your coffee in the morning? Where do you eat dinner? Is it in front of the TV or is it a dining room? Are four of you sleeping in one bedroom? Do you have enough bathrooms? Do you have a tub and a shower? You have this. These are the questions that I ask, and you have to ask yourself that. How am I going to occupy this space if I don't get a remodel done and I don't change it? How do I want to occupy the space if I can find a way to modify my space and renovate this? And those are the questions that you need to ask. And if you have a good builder, they'll ask that. Because they'll say, okay, well, I realize what you want and what you see. Because a lot of times a lot of times consumers who watch HGTV or read the magazines or look online, they'll say, man, that looks great. I want to do that. And when I talk to clients, a lot of times they'll say, well, admittedly, Chip and Joanna Gaines are making that look good, but are you, for instance, I'll give you an example. I want a 6 foot by 10 foot island so I can entertain. And, I'm going to need to have enough room on my deck. I'm going to need a 20 by 30 deck out there. I need this, I need that. And I'm exaggerating, but to make a point. And so a lot of times I'll ask them, I'll say, well, how often do you have people over? And I go, I don't know, a couple times a year. Okay. And when they come over, how many of those people are there? Yeah. Okay. So do you really want to turn your house into a bed and breakfast, or do you want to turn your house into an event center? Don't you think that if you just make it where it works for, in the case of a retired couple or a single couple, you two and maybe your children, why don't we just focus on that? And then when that rare occasion out of 365 days or 2 days that you actually fill your house full of people, well, you can, we can talk about that afterwards and make some secondary adjustments for that. But you don't need to have a full outdoor kitchen and a 20 by 30 deck and an in-ground spa and all this seating and benches and everything else if you're only going to use it twice a year. So these are things that I ask. And again, those are very specific, and that's just a little thing. But as a professional, as a builder, my clients count on me to do this, to bring these things up, because that is my field of expertise in design, in remodel. And as a builder, I know what things cost. So we're going to focus on spending money where we have to and saving it where we can. And you need to look at it that way. When you're making your plans, you need to have a plan. Just like I said, a blueprints with a project. You need to have a plan. This is how we're looking at living in this right now. Is this sustainable? And this is, on the other hand, this is where we want to go. Can we afford it? Does our budget allow us to do this? Does the time? Can we do this? Can we do that? Can we find somebody that's qualified to do it? And then once we have this space, is that a space that we can live in successfully and happily and not trip over each other or, get in the way, or in the case of having your office in there, the kids want to watch TV and you got to work late? Well, that's not a good mix. So these are the things that I recommend. If that's your reason, is to modify that space because you're going to be closer to home and you're going to weather this thing, now's the time to do it. Now is better than later because the Fed is going to go up on interest rates some more. We are going to find that based on my experience, and this is my third one, you're going to find that the economy is going to collapse a little more before it starts to expand again. And so that's what I think. And I'm conducting myself that way myself. That's for an author. I really shouldn't have shouldn't have said that. But anyway, if y'all have any questions on this, please contact me. I know you're worried. I know that you're concerned about what you're reading in the newspapers. And for those of you who read them, I know what's online and what's on the news networks is less than encouraging. And it is for me too. But I will say this, things are going to get better. It's going to take a little while, but it's going to get better. It's not always going to be this way because no matter what goes on in Washington, we people, we are the ones that control this. And as long as we keep our heads about us, remain principled and true to our values, we're going to be just fine. Nobody can lead us astray if we know where we're going. I appreciate you taking the time to visit with me. And again, contact me, Craig at CraigRaney.com, or hit the like button, leave a comment. I'll answer you. Take care.